Here we go on Facebook, on YouTube. We were trying to see if we have maybe more people coming in, but we are left with very few people since, of course, they have removed our channel number, what, 16? I don't know. I mean, they have been removing so many channels. This is Leo Zagami. This is Christy Zagami.
They took away our very best channel.
Our very best channel.
We have 5,000 subscribers. That's really phenomenal, because usually, well, look what happens. After 5,000, they take us away.
Yeah, they always bring it down. Every time we have 5,000. I want to see, actually, I want to check out if we are broadcasting also on Facebook. I'm not sure, but it seems like we are, but you know, you never know with Facebook. Yeah. But I'm checking out if we are, and it seems like we are. It seems like we are. Okay.
I see myself.
You see yourself. So welcome also to everybody that is tuning in on Facebook, reminding those people who are tuning in through Facebook to subscribe to our YouTube channels. And we have actually opened even a new emergency channel that we will list soon. I'm opening so many channels, like I'm losing count, but we have to persist because this is the way we survive on YouTube. And some people say, why don't you move on other platforms? It seems we are, but nobody cares. When you go on Rumble, if you don't pay extraordinary amounts of money, they don't really give you any exposure, let's say. And the same can be said also with BitChute. But we will persist and, of course, update you with all the latest on the channel maneuvers. But please subscribe to the latest channel, which is, of course, listed as our main new channel. Okay. At this point, I know, we lost basically 2 minutes to talk about this, but it's a little bit like when they censored us on PayPal. But we are proud of being censored on PayPal, because now PayPal is really turning out to be a vicious group of people, and in fact, they have backpedaled though from the decision to fine people $2,500 if they gave out fake news of things that were not in line with them. So PayPal is in trouble. PayPal is in trouble. We have to, though, thank, first of all, the people who made this show possible. And, of course, Bruce Codish, Giuseppina Pina Caero. We have also Reynaldo Gonzalez. And this is a new entry. These are the people who... we
have anonymous donations.
We have, okay. And if we have missed your name, please write to Ordo Illuminatorum Universalis at gmail.com, and we will, of course, mention you amongst our sponsors. But they can't be a Leo Zagami show without the extraordinary dance macabre. No, at the beginning, we have to open up. And that's it. We hope not to be banned by Facebook or maybe restricted, but you know, they're always a little bit strange about what you can play, not play, and sincerely, I don't care about the copyright rules of Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg.
I would like to say hello to my friend Kathy.
Okay.
And she's very awake. She likes to tell me that the Canadians aren't all stupid, and I know that's true.
Okay, so the Canadians are not all stupid. Breaking news, Christy, that is something...
Well, I already knew that. There's a lot of Canadians on my Facebook, and they are very, very patriotic. Can you be patriotic? Is that only American?
Well, you can be patriotic, but Canada is not such a great nation when you have Justin Trudeau censoring everybody, restricting what they can say, not say, even their bank accounts. Of course, I respect Canadians, but until they do a revolution like 1776, I'm not really inclined to respect them, because they're still
but what if you were stuck in a country like this?
But they're bowing down still to the English monarchy. Now they're gonna have Prince Charles, now King Charles III. I mean, Bolshevik Canada, it's a mix between a libtard monarchy, which is the British one, which is of course controlled by the Illuminati, and of course the worst kind of communism in the DNA of Trudeau, which apparently is also the illegitimate son of Fidel Castro. He was, by the way, he came here to California a few days ago, and he made a video. I mean, I should find it. It's just like him and Newsom together. It's like, I don't know, two libtards of the ultimate kind, no?
They found each other.
They found each other. Maybe they love each other. Who knows?
They're lost souls, and they found each other.
While the wife of Newsom is involved instead with the court trial of Harvey Weinstein, which we'll see also another important testimony, Mel Gibson testimony against Harvey Weinstein.
That's good.
Okay. We had the extraordinary dance of the beginning. First of all, let me show you what happens when you are truly libtarded and you are part of that sect that bows down to Antichrist Greta Thunberg as the ultimate idol of so-called climate change. I want to show you what happened when in England these two people, young people, did this to a painting, a Picasso painting. I mean, it's just like extraordinary to see how this climate activism doesn't respect artwork. It's just incredible. They have, of course, these climate nuts have been arrested after throwing soup, Campbell soup. Yeah, of course, a little bit indicating, I guess, the art work of maybe Andy Warhol with, I don't know, maybe there was a vague reference there. In any case, here we are. Check out these libtards of the ultimate kind.
Security.
What is worth more, art or life? Is it worth more?
I mean, these are the millennials. These are the people. These are your children that they are being brainwashed. Not your children, but the children of many people that these days really leave the education of their sons to the institutions like the colleges, the various, universities and so on, and even the high school. All the forms of educations have been infiltrated by libtards, and this is the result.
More than food, worth more than justice. Are you more concerned about the protection of a painting or the protection of our planet and people? The cost of living crisis is part of the cost of oil crisis.
First of all, because I mean, I'm half English, so I know English people are divided in social classes. You have to understand there is also a way of talking that is, pronouncing, English accents are different. Some of them are difficult to understand, especially the poorer classes, social classes. So there is this difference in expression, in the way they look. And from the way this guy looks, these people, these two kids, they don't seem like they are from some impoverished.
No.
They are probably some upper class.
These people look entitled. If you want to just put that on a stupid title on a thing, they do. I mean, that face
is unaffordable to millions of cold, hungry families.
Who come to the hungry families? So it's obvious that this. If I'm sure that if we go and find the parents of these two pricks, because that's how they will be called.
I hope they go to jail forever.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that they will not go to jail forever because probably they are the children of some very powerful people, parasites. But that's how
Can't even afford to heat a tin of soup. Meanwhile, crops are failing. Millions of people are dying in monsoons, wildfires, and severe drought. We cannot afford new oil and gas. It is going to take everything we know and love.
They're really showing themselves to do really well. Come on, man.
Oh, wow. Incredible. I mean, I know that the title of today's show brings us back to the war in Ukraine, brings us back so this confrontation, which is, by the way, a confrontation between good and evil, between what is right and wrong in our society, the decline of our Western society, which is not capable of really responding to Vladimir Putin in the appropriate way, because our society is producing this kind of children. So this is the problem here. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Wherever you are around the world, thanks to our sponsors, we are bringing you this show today, Saturday, October 15 of the year of the Lord 2022. And of course, later on, we will have also our phone calls. But in the meantime, we are conducting, of course, a show which focuses on a geopolitical analysis of what has been happening this week around the world. When I was arrested and locked up in 2014, and I write about it in volume 8 of my confessions in detail, I was repeatedly played a song every morning called Bella Ciao. And the guy who organized this brainwashing of some kind, or at least retaliation against me, knowing that this song is a communist, socialist song, and this is Bella Ciao, this hymn of the leftists in Europe, sung at the recent Socialist Congress, European Socialist Congress. These are the European socialists, and this is what Biden is trying to imitate and bring here to America. Watch them. Now, the thing is that basically this song is sold to the masses as a song that was sung during the Second World War, when the partigiani, the guys who were opposing in Italy, the fascists, were fighting as the resistance to an hypothetical democracy. Well, that's not true. This song was actually artificially constructed as a hymn of the left in the 60s, late 50s. It was from, if you go and research the history of this song, it was never sung during the Second World War. It's a complete lie. But the socialists are full of lies. And so that's what we get from them. Check out the Socialist Congress. This is the worst scum in the world, guys. This is what Joe Biden wants to imitate, the European Socialist Congress. are the same idiots who are supporting the war against Russia, sending weapons every day to Ukraine, endorsing Ukraine above all without searching for any peace agreements. But I want to just, for the people who, of course, don't know the origins of this song, it's easy. Let's go just on an article that was published by a leftist newspaper, the #1 leftist newspaper in Italy, called Corriere della Sera, and they admit that this song, the true story of Bella Ciao, that was never sung by the Italian resistance. You see? So these people are living a lie. These people are liars. E says here, Bella Ciao è una canzone che non è mai stata cantata dai partiti, però è molto popolare. Was never sung by the partigiani.
Their own history.
It was, yeah, it's just artificial, it's fake. And these are the people who unfortunately rule Europe and soon will rule the world if we continue to endorse these leftist policies. Every single morning, when they arrested me and locked me up for in January 2014 because of the pitchforks insurrection that I was leading, well, every morning they would play this song. And I actually called a friend of mine, Manuel, no? And he recorded it. So we actually have a recording of this brainwashing attempt that was conducted every single morning. And the guy in charge of the institute where I was locked up was a Tavistock Institute, and he admitted in front of my lawyer, you remember? He admitted it, so we have the evidence. And he works also for the Vatican. So the Vatican endorses brainwashing with Bella Ciao. Well, this is insane, man. This is insane. Oh, libertà, freedom of what? These people are brainwashed individuals. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Today we are discussing the weekly news, current events, what is happening in this extremely tense situation, this extremely tense world, in which we have also people like Fetterman, this candidate in Pennsylvania, who this week was one of the main topics because the guy unfortunately suffered a stroke and now has to follow a caption on a screen while being interviewed. It was obvious that this guy is not suitable, but he was probably not suitable even before the stroke because he's been always a great ignorant. He never presided over to his works as a mayor of a small town in Pennsylvania. He's been kind of crafted and molded to arrive to the position of...
He's been molded and crafted?
Yeah, I know. He looks like Uncle Fester from the Adams Family, but that's what you have in America. I mean, and soon, breaking news, guys, Joe Biden will join Fetterman for a special session. Guys, I don't want to miss that. Imagine this. Fetterman only reads from captions. So does Joe Biden. But the problem is that Joe Biden at times loses it completely. And so who is going to be better at reading this, the teleprompter? It's going to be a complete mess. So I'm looking forward to Joe Biden going to Pennsylvania to endorse physically and in presence John Fetterman, maybe releasing also one of his farts. Oh, okay. But let's see what Lester said.
Interview since he suffered a stroke. And Dasha, this was not a typical candidate interview.
No, Lester, because of his stroke, Fetterman's campaign required closed captioning technology for this interview to essentially read our questions as we ask them. And Lester, in small talk before the interview, without captioning, it wasn't clear he was understanding our conversation.
Can voters trust that you will be able to do this job on day one?
Yeah, of course.
This is Pennsylvania Democratic Senate candidate John.
I respect this guy for the fact that all of us should respect people who go through some physical problems, because it's terrible to not be in control of your body. And to want to do something and not being able to, it's a terrible thing, guys. Not being able to lift a foot when you want to lift a foot, talk when you want to talk, lift a hand when you want to lift a hand. Anything that brings an handicap to the human being is, of course, terrible.
We should have compassion.
And we should have compassion
as
Christians. But you are in no way in this delicate moment of our history suited for the office of governor.
Fetterman's first in-person sit-down interview since a stroke sidelined him from the campaign trail for months.
That auditory processing where I'll hear someone speaking, but sometimes I'll be able to be precise on what exactly that they're saying. I use captioning.
His campaign required that he be allowed to use a transcription program on his computer during our interview.
I always thought I was pretty empathetic, emphatic. I think I was very, empathetic. That's an example of the stroke, empathetic. I always thought I was very empathetic before having a stroke. But now after having that stroke, I really understand, much more kind of the challenges that Americans have day in and day out.
So you say you're on the road to full recovery, but right now, voters really have to take your word for it. We've asked for...
Yes, because he's not releasing, publicly his health statements. I mean, the statements of his doctor.
I wonder where that came from.
Your medical records. We've asked to have a conversation with someone from your medical team, to interview your physician. You've declined those requests. Why?
Well, I feel like we have been very transparent in a lot of different ways. When our doctor has...
In a lot of different ways. If you don't release that information, you're not being transparent. I mean, that's kind of simple.
Already given a letter saying that I'm able to serve and to be running.
I mean, respectfully, that letter from your physician, that was 6 months ago. Don't voters deserve to know your status now?
Being in front of thousands and thousands of people and having interviews and getting around all across Pennsylvania, that gives everybody and the voters decide, if they think that it's really the issue.
He doesn't want to release this information. We have, for example, on the other side, a rhino. Because he's a Republican in name only. Dr. Mehmet Oz is definitely not somebody that I particularly like. I don't really like Turks to start with for my own personal experiences, even if my son is half Turk, but that's how it is. So Dr. Mehmet Oz is not really my favorite choice. I think that Trump there did a favor to somebody who in the future might create some problems during the voting of laws that might be important even for, when you pass these laws, maybe even one vote is fundamental, and who knows what Mehmet Oz will do. But I still, of course, prefer him to this guy here, because Mehmet Oz has at least focused the attention of his campaign on security, while instead this guy wants to give a second chance to people who are on death row or locked up for life, or I don't know what. I mean, this guy wants to give chances to criminals. Okay, so it's. I mean, at least regarding it's a bit here. In small, in Palm Springs, we have a candidate who is a woman from the Democratic Party, and then we have a guy called Greg Wallis who is instead endorsed by the local, the Riverside Association of Sheriffs and so on. But basically, is endorsed by those police forces who want security for the streets of Palm Springs, but also for the rest of the Riverside County. But unfortunately, I noticed that here in Southern California, you're only going to hear one side, because the money invested in the Republican and the alternative candidate is very little compared to what they're investing on this Christy, whatever the name we know, but her surname is
Hostage.
who, by the way, is gender fluid. We don't exactly understand why, and she's fluid. She goes from one thing to the other. Okay, so in any case, I hope one day to bring back Palm Springs to some sense and bring it back to the conservative era of Sonny Bono. That would be great.
That's gonna be a job.
that would be incredible. Okay, so what was the reply though of the wife of Fetterman? She went on record accusing the journalist of NBC of having in some way exposed the sickness of the husband. This is the wife of Fetterman. Let's see what she says. I mean, it seems like these people are really out of it.
I don't like saying rage because I think that's a really unhealthy feeling. And when you feel those things, it only harms yourself. But I just, what a disservice that she did to not only my husband, but to anyone facing a disability and working through it. And I don't know how there were not consequences, right? I mean, there are consequences for...
Why? She simply did an interview trying to do an honest job in exposing the fact that this guy has some difficulties. But, I mean, did you see her offensive or in any way she conducted the interview properly?
No.
I think the journalist, we're talking about NBC, guys. This is a lackey of Lester Holt. I mean, if they are not respectful towards the Democrats, who is? But let's continue to hear the response of Fetterman's wife.
Folks in these positions who are any of the isms. I mean, she was ableist, and that's what she was in her interview. It was appalling to the entire disability community, and I think to journalism. So I was shocked. I'm still really upset about it. And I think the positive is it's brought a lot of conversations.
I think that, yes, she might be really slightly AOC style, the way she talks and the way she mimics that kind of rhetoric. Okay. Yes.
They did the same thing to Trump when he was in office. They tried to claim that he wasn't cognitively, good. But they just, it's okay.
And then after they put a corpse to
I know.
So, at least we stand with Oz against this guy who, of course, is not together, and the wife is completely out of it. These people are really progressive extremists, both of them, both the wife and the husband.
Around accommodations, around rights, around ableism, right? I mean, ableism was trending on Twitter. It just shows there's so much work to do, but these networks have to take accountability, right? Like, where is your training?
Right.
It was appalling to see. And you see that in schools, you see that with young children. You don't expect to see it at this level. And, I haven't heard an apology. It hasn't come. I am hopeful that, they will reflect and see that they did an incredible disservice to all Americans.
The disservice to all Americans is done by you wasting taxpayers' money with your whatever work that you're doing, because, the guy, sincerely, has no place in politics any longer. And even if he had it before the stroke, he was an extremist. These people are extremists, leftist extremists that really are so far away from the American way of life. I gather that the wife must be Latino, but the Latino vote is really moving in the Republican direction because we are really fed up in a way of I think that all the Latinos in America are fed up, and plus a lot of them, like even NBC showed in a report last night, come from communist countries, and they don't want to come here to America to support communists and socialists they have been fleeing from. So, I think that the black vote is being lost, and we have seen it with Candace Owens' success with the latest movie against Black Lives Matter. We are seeing the Latino vote shifting towards the Republican Party. There is nothing left in this thing about abortion just brings them some votes from women who say they want to be entitled to such an act without any problem. So welcome to the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy Zagami. We are 7 minutes to the hour. We broadcast from Palm Springs, California. How are you this morning, Christy? And what do you think of the wife of Fetterman saying those things?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I was trying to put myself in her place. Like if something like that happened to you. Oh, well, I mean, it would be really unfair, but I think that if you couldn't speak and it would be heartbreaking. It would be absolutely heartbreaking, but I would have to say that you weren't capable of doing the job to the best of your ability. God wants you to do your best. And if you can't do your best, then don't do it. I would be very sad, but I would that's how I would react. So I mean, her doing that,
being realistic, basically, trying to be a little bit more
I would
realistic.
be upset, because there would be our livelihood and everything we worked for, but God's in control of everything, and if that's what God wants, then I just follow God. And so there might be something better. So maybe there's something else for him that he can do. I doubt it, but I don't like him.
This guy was chasing black people with guns, and then he wants to be the guy who protects the black community. It's just another word. Okay, so we continue with our show, with our news, and of course, at this point, we inevitably go to Joe Biden, who was welcome here in California with a lot of protesters that basically lined up. So as you can see, there is even here in California, people who dislike the Republicans. The problem with California is the system is really rigged. So either they find a way to disrig it, or either it's going to end up with a civil war sooner or later here in California and in the rest of America, of course. But let's see also this guy who goes on stage here in California and he says things that are completely out. I mean, he says things and then he acts upon those things, because I'm going to show you not only Joe Biden, who says there's not a single solitary Biden man that is as younger Biden, all that thing he said. But then he went and importuned a little girl, took her from the back. I mean,
what's he trying to say?
I mean, okay, let me show you first of all these words.
You met my wife? I married up. I was one of those guys that my whole life I've been surrounded by women who've taken care of me. Maybe they're smarter than I am. My younger sister used to be 3 years younger than me. Now she's 23 years younger. There was not a single solitary Biden man that is younger than any Biden woman. And my wife, by the way, at a community college, my wife is teaching today. My wife is a full-time college professor at a community college.
Whoa. So as the Biden exposes himself, basically the Bidens actually expose themselves as pedophiles, then he walks the walk, because he, like to say, I mean, I'm using, of course, I'm trying to be funny, but it's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny, because what I'm about to show is the number million attempt by President Joe Biden to importune and grab little children and sniff them and do all kinds of things. This was a few minutes after this statement. Joe Biden here in California with a little girl.
Look at Dan.
Now, the very important thing I told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys in your 30s.
Okay.
Right?
No what?
No serious guys in your 30s.
I'll keep that in mind.
What did he just say?
Let's go back, because the mainstream media doesn't want to touch this. This is really bad, guys. This is really bad. What is this creepo doing?
He's so nasty.
It's just incredible.
Look at Dan.
Now, the very important thing I told my daughter and granddaughters.
You see? The arm.
No serious guys in your 30s.
Okay.
Right?
No what?
No serious guys in your 30s.
I'll keep that in mind.
So he said no serious guys until you're 30.
Well, that's okay.
Well,
Maybe just stay away from
This guy's in your 30s.
that's just that's horrible.
And before, so to her, she says no serious guys until you're 30, and to the others, he said this.
I married up. I was one of those guys my whole life. I've been surrounded by women who've taken care of me. Maybe they're smarter than I am. My younger sister used to be 3 years younger than me. Now she's 23 years younger. There was not a single solitary Biden man that is younger than any Biden woman. And my wife, by the way, at a community college, my
I mean,
how can his sister be 23 years younger than him and she was only 3 years younger than him?
you know,
Did he say that? I don't understand.
the guy's completely out of it, and really, I mean,
That's the president.
That's the president of the United States. I mean, it's the president they deserve. If they continue, the Americans continue to support this Democratic Party, they will get people like Joe Biden, people like Fetterman, people like Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi this week was on the news.
Oh.
Suddenly takes out, I mean, they had a camera crew on the January 6th. She had also her daughter filming her, she watching the camera. All this, of course, became part of the closing episode. It was like a closing episode of the most unwatched saga called the January 6th Committee. Nobody watched this January 6th Committee until the last day when suddenly they subpoenaed Trump and they closed down the whole thing. And Trump said the unselected committee, because it's supposed to be selected committee, but it's nothing selected, but because who decided this committee? Nancy Pelosi. So let's see Nancy Pelosi in her theatrics. She's not such a good actress, but together with Chuck Schumer, looking directly into the camera, they've been doing some theatrics on 6th of January. This is the most demented thing I could ever see. I mean, this was like, they brought it up like this was the ultimate evidence. CNN, and all the NBC, and everybody, and then after, in the end, it's garbage.
Now, if he comes here, we'll want to the White House. If he comes, I'm going to punch him out. This is my mom. I would pay to see that. I'm waiting for this.
So she wants to punch Trump. She's laughing. I don't see people who their life is threatened laughing or being taken care in this way.
For trespassing on the Capitol.
With a TV crew mounting up microphones and stuff.
Ground. I'm going to punch him out and I'm going to go to jail and I'm going to be happy.
She's having her microphone put on while there is a crisis and allegedly they were about to kill. What is this BS? This is Hollywood BS to the extreme.
We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive personnel now. Can you get the Maryland National Guard to come too?
I'm going to call the mayor of Washington, D.C. right now and see what other outreach she has to other police departments, as Leader Hoyer has mentioned.
Official channels, Paul Irving, your sergeant at arms, will inform you that their best information is that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour.
Good news.
Your sergeant at arms will be in touch about the process for getting members back in the building.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Drama queen number one. I'm sure she's now a hero also for the LGBTQ community because, I mean, such a drama queen.
The videos captured by her daughter, Alexandra Pelosi, a documentary filmmaker.
They're really showing them.
This happens to be a documentary filmmaker who that day was there with professional cameras and, of course, professional microphones. Because, you don't just go around with all that setup. You might have a mobile phone and take it out and film, but you don't go around with the...
It was all staged. Okay.
the whole thing seems more staged than ever. That's completely staged, and it gives us also more ammunition to us, the conservatives, the people who don't believe in the lies of the left, because it clearly shows that the whole, at this point, we can really say the whole thing was staged. I mean, they opened the doors of the Capitol Hill, the FBI made a warning, and nobody listened. They had infiltrated the Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, everything. They knew exactly what was about to happen. They instigated it, shouting, let's... when are we going to stop this BS and get down to work to make America great again, actually to make America decent again, not even great, because we are heading towards a recession that will bring us towards being a third world country. So it's not anymore about making America great. It's make America reasonably decent, because at the moment it's not even reasonably decent, not great. The people are paying crazy prices here in California, more than any other state, and still Newsom has the courage to open his mouth and condemn OPEC. Lies upon lies upon lies. So this is what happens. The fakeness of these people from the left, the way they act. I mean, we see them, we live amongst them, you know. So we are a minority actually here. So you see them every day. Casey, what do you think about these people? They're so fake. I mean, and then, you know, listen to their god, Kamala, who has her family here in Palm Springs. What kind of thought she had? Like she's some kind of genius. Well, listen what
but also inflation, gas prices, the economy. Have you and the president done enough to address this? And have you done a good enough job communicating what you've done to the American people?
I mean, listen, let's start with this, which is that the American people have a lot of burdens on their lives right now, including the cost of life.
Oh, and that was a great discovery. It's like discovering hot water. We say in Italy, there's a way of saying, oh, wow, she discovered hot water. Ooh, wow, she discovered hot water. Well, this woman who has her family here in the area and who took time off from her job one weekend to just come here. Nobody knew why. Oh, some kind of family problem. But in reality, we know that Obama also has his villa here in Rancho Mirage. It's kind of a coincidence. And we know also that Obama, the guy who parked at the handicap place a couple of weeks ago, I was having sushi with his daughters. These are the Democrats, the hypocrisy, the fakeness. Christy, tell me about the fakeness of the Democrats. You see them every day.
Well, it's just obvious in my It's just obvious. So,
what kind of people are they?
I just don't know. I don't know. You're asking me this, but I don't really care about them anymore. I don't look at them. I don't care about them because I just sound whacked out if I say that half of them are possessed by demons. So, and I can see them, and so I just stay away from them. They can just deal with what they have.
Well, until they conduct us inevitably towards a nuclear war, and these warmongers basically are driving us towards annihilation, towards extermination. Let's go into the international news because, of course, we want to thank first of all our sponsors today: Giuseppina Pina Caero, always very kind, Blue Scottish, Reynaldo Gonzalez. These are our sponsors. We remind the people who are watching us that we need sponsors for our broadcast every week. We would like actually.
We don't even have a channel now.
Well, we are rebuilding, but it takes time to rebuild new channels and stuff. So please support us maybe, and you can do it through GoFundMe, you can do it through Fundly, you can do it through Cash App. These are basically the ways that you can help us out, no, Christy? Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry to say that since we lost our main channel once again, we lost
viewers, and probably a lot of these people on here are Italians.
I don't know, but I mean the thing is,
then you should put captioning.
We said I don't know, but you can put caption, but it's a bit complex. In any case, we want to say to all our viewers in the English language, please share it on your social media. promote the new channel that you can find also linked to leozagami.com, because we always link, and I said that in the past, but people, of course, don't listen. Don't let the Leo Zagami show disappear, because the Leo Zagami show is not just one of the many shows on the internet. I've been doing this for over 20 years. People like leading people of the sector, like Alex Jones, look up to me for their information, and I should have a better place in the internet, not 50 people. No, I mean, it's like people would like to have more shows from us, but it's not encouraging to have 50 people, guys.
We didn't even want to come on today, to tell you the truth.
Because it's like, it's so.
You get all, ready, and you have to prepare for hours. He prepared since yesterday. And then we know that nobody's going to be here. I mean, I have I guess I don't have that many friends on my Facebook, but I have a lot of followers. And, they always, it's on there on my Facebook. I don't know. It's just sad situation. Yeah. Captioning, might be great for the Italians. Maybe we can try to see if that's possible, but it's a bit complex. But we don't offer captioning from Italian to English because the Italian program is a political program aimed to the Italian audience. So we want to make this very clear, guys. Don't confuse the work that I'm doing with the Leo Zagami Show to the work I do in Italy, because in Italy I'm a political figure, and it's a bit difficult to, it's a different show. So.
It's
the same. You show the same news basically, but it's the Italian news, and you give the Americans the Italian news also.
Yes.
But it's just done in a different way. Italians talk different. They just have a different sense of humor.
And plus, I have a different kind of respect in Italy due to my political work there. So it's a very different kind of baggage. Here in America, they know me for my books, which I encourage people to purchase. This is very important. We really suggest you purchase both Christy's books and my own books, including the latest two, Volume 7 and Volume 6.66. Because these two books are fundamental to understand where we stand now. And the Volume 6.66, based on the Age of Cyber Satan, Artificial Intelligence, and Robotics, is one of my best sellers, one of my best books, and it's a book that really, for the first time, brings the demonic in line also with the technology side of things, the exorcism, the various forms of exorcism. I mean, it's a very interesting book, and of course, also the roots of Satanism that go back to Caterina de' Medici. And then we have Volume 7, which is, of course, my latest, and it's from the Occult Roots of the Great Reset to the Populist Roots of the Great Reject. And, of course, this book here will be followed by Volume 8 next month. Now, there is a lot of work being done for you by me and by Christy for being as thorough as possible, because this book is actually being translated, but then has to sound like it's not translated because we like our book. So it's basically being written in 2 languages. That's what it is. And but keeping it to the point, because
this book, I'm holding my head and I'm disturbed every single day at the things I'm learning in this book that I didn't know, and now. I mean, Christy, I can't wait for this book. I sit across from him. We sit across from each other when we work. And I'm just like, I'm so disturbed. I can't read this. I don't want to know this stuff. And, then I read more. And then I ask him, because I'm on chapter 3, and it's just like a bomb. This book is a bomb. And I don't know. I'm not trying to. This is the truth. I mean, this book is just.
Volume 8 is going to be a book, a groundbreaking book. And if people think it's the usual book about Hollywood, the Illuminati, and all that BS, no. Here you're talking about some serious facts, and we are talking about some very scary things.
Scary. I'm a different person than I was when I started editing this book. I'm not the same person. I'm not doing the same things anymore that I was doing before. I'm protecting myself. And now I know how after I read your book. So, and you were saying these things to me and I wasn't listening to you. But then when I read your book, I understood why. And now I know why I can't do these things anymore. And I'm listening to the words that you said in your book. I want to help myself.
So I just demand that all our audience to have a moment of patience, because it's not an easy job. More than 1,000 footnotes, a book over 500 pages is 520 pages. It's basically a book, like the one of David Rockefeller, for example, 520 pages. But David Rockefeller had 4 people, professional professors, of course, working for him night and day. He even mentions that in this book, which I regard as a great book. I mean, David Rockefeller's memoirs, for those who are interested in New World Order, is an essential reading. But, I mean, he had, of course, the money and the possibility to do it. We are doing it in a more casareccio way, I would say in Italian, more, homey. But we're doing it in a way that is going to astonish the crowd, because we are really doing it to bend down also any form of criticism from the academic world. I mean, going into the Rockefeller archives, going into places where you're not supposed to go and retrieve this information has not been easy. But in the end, you will basically get a glimpse of why Hollywood has been created and the purpose of it and where we stand now. And not only Hollywood, but also all the music business. And I guess that you will be surprised about certain things that you will learn about the very roots of Hollywood. People will be like, "What? I didn't know that." A lot of people think they know a lot. Yeah, I mean, I had because David Parrini is one of the people who is because I don't have a team aside from Christy for the English language, but I have a small team for my Italian version. It's a couple of people who collaborate with me just so we can make the book perfect. And of course,
they make my job really good because they're really good on their side. And so when I get the Italian,
so we are doing everything so everything is perfect for the Italian as well as the English version. These different rules of citation, so it's a bit complex. But in any case, the guys who had the opportunity to read it, and these are professors, one guy with 2 university degrees and stuff, apart from the fact that they were shocked, very impressed. But David Parrini, for example, he told me, Leo, my daughter is studying cinematography, and she was pretty shocked and very interested in all the book and reading this book, and because you are talking about the history also of cinematography. It's not just like, you're talking about the very history of it. So
I think that this book needs to go to Oliver.
Oliver Stone, definitely I will send a copy to him and his son, and I'm sure that they will appreciate it. It's not only about the occult element, we have also the military-industrial complex involvement and all. I mean, the Sabbatean Frankist involvement, the Jesuit involvement. It's definitely, and then we go into the roots of the music, the modern music, rock, blues, and where they come from, the occult side of things. And then that gets really creepy at times. It's really creepy. And you have the involvement of Prince Hall Freemasonry, certain black fraternities, mixed with, of course, their all the voodoo and all that. But in any case, we're not going to give you too much in anticipation, because this is a book that you're going to have to study and read, 520 pages. But sorry?
We're anticipating it to be out in November.
Yes, I think that by the middle to the end of November at this point. I know we said it will be out in October, guys, but it's just literally impossible to do a perfect book in 2 languages. I have a graphic designer also who's working. Let's remember that our latest book, which is volume 7 of my confession, which is still this book. I mean, the book that I published in early February talked about everything that happened and is preparing you for everything that is happening. So, I mean, this book is still essential reading. And people, when I came out, they didn't believe, that we will be fronting a nuclear problem, this and that. People were like skeptic. But then now everything is.
You were a warmonger.
I was a warmonger. It was this, it was that.
Really nasty comment.
Yes, but now everybody is kind of really saying, okay, Leo Zagami always gets it right in his books. So what's next? That's why Volume 8 is a book that presents you not only Hollywood, but the ideology of the Antichrist, which has been filtered before his arrival, and how they are preparing for the arrival of this eminent figure called the Antichrist.
Imagine, we're living this. It's incredible, this time that we're living in.
Yes.
I mean, you really realize that you're living this. I already knew, but guys, this is it.
I mean, people like Rockefeller, Rockefeller has been dead now, David Rockefeller, for 5 years. But David Rockefeller, it's a guy that was completely proud of his internationalist status, and he actually said it very clearly. I mean, I would like to just give you a glimpse of what he says. I mean, he talks against populism, for example. He can't stand populism. He can't stand basically what the people want, because, he's a proud internationalist, and basically he says the anti-Rockefeller focus of the otherwise incompatible political positions owes much to populism. Populism believes in conspiracies, and one the most enduring is that a secret group of international bankers and capitalists and their minions control the world's economy because of my name and prominence of the head of the chase. But he actually goes on to admit that, he admits it. He said, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it, if that's the case. Now, this guy was proud of what he was doing to dominate and ruin America. My new book, though, will explain you how the bank cartels, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefeller family, the involvement of the Jesuits, everything is together. It's one big block. It's not separate. It's not this rather than that. It's not only the Jews rather than this. It doesn't work that way. And actually, that's also a very important thing. We saw it with Kanye West. Oh, yeah. The ignorance persists. Attacking the Jews, instead of attacking the Sabbatean Frankists, instead of explaining why part of the Jewish nation was led astray. And it was led astray actually from the very early times of Moses, when those magicians, high priests came out. They were Egyptians, not Jews. They came out and followed Moses. They became the basis of the Erev Rav, the heresy that then many centuries later will then bring us the Sabbatean Frankists. So there is a lot to say. And David Rockefeller, for example, he's not Jewish, but he was founded by the Rothschilds. So we go back to the Sabbatean Frankists. So, but Kanye West and his blatant attack made out of ignorance, because that's made out of ignorance, And I hope that Kanye West manages to study my books and understand.
There's a lot of bad stuff, though.
It's like he doesn't really, he doesn't really grasp the whole picture. They tend to grasp only part of the picture. And, if you don't know that the Sabbatean Frankists are the heresies, the heretics of the Jewish world, if you don't know that the Jesuits are the heretics of the Catholic world, if you don't know how they operate these heresies within.
If you don't know, you're showing your ignorance.
I hope, repeat, that people can read this book, including Kanye West, and understand things, educate themselves. That's why I'm going to circulate the Volume 8 a lot amongst my friends in Hollywood, in the music business, try to educate them a little bit. Because as you know, I was also involved in the music business, so I had a direct involvement, even if I didn't persist in it until the age of 35. I was a professional record producer and a DJ. I played in the Bolshoi for Vladimir Putin. I did things that were professionally very serious, very important. And of course, I always took my music very seriously as a cultural thing, not as a commercial, a way of making money. That's why after I walked out of it. So people need to prepare for a great book, but also get the other books, because volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all these volumes, thousands of pages. It's like this that you really understand what the Illuminati are doing. The Illuminati, the real Illuminati, you can't understand them by reading a silly page on the internet.
Someday there's not going to be any internet.
And some days you not gonna, somebody's asking which book focuses on the Jesuit, volume 4, if you want to have really a lot of interesting information on the Jesuit. I will suggest volume 4, also on the Sabbatean Frankenstein and the Jesuits links. Volume 4, it's definitely the right book for that. But I repeat, if you want to understand instead the topology, the way the secret society operates, then volume 1 is essential reading, no? And we are now saluting our friend Luca Tarquini. Luca!
Hi, Luca!
Is my former cameraman from Italy, who was at the time also involved in Vatican.
Posso parlare italiano adesso?
Luca, adesso può parlare italiano. So a big hello to my friend who we see appearing here in the chat from Facebook. If you are questioning why we're talking about Luca, it's because we're seeing it in the chat. And now we are, of course, moving forward with more news. And this is basically a man who interrupts a symposiums on the vaccines. And I mean, it's, we are, of course, in the age of censorship, but it's important that people realize that not everybody is brainwashed. Not everybody is brainwashed.
Not everybody is brainwashed.
Not everybody is brainwashed. Not everybody is a climate nut who goes and throws tomato soup on a Picasso painting. I mean, but this is the level, unfortunately, these days of a lot of these millennials. Some people, every now and then, they'll understand that things are not really going the way they are, and they want to make it known.
It's not just your vaccine bill. It is, other bills related to health. And so it is not uncommon to have a legislative hearing stacked with, 8, 10 pieces of legislation that are being heard in committee, one or maybe even two of those bills being vaccine related. So when you hear of, bill here.
I have a question. So Pfizer has the biggest criminal fine in history. So how is it anti-science to not trust them? If they're on record bribing physicians and fudging the test results, $2.3 billion fine. So how is it anti-science to question them? Can you explain that, please?
So I appreciate your comment. I'd like to finish my presentation, and if you can hold your question to the end.
I have 4 questions. I have 4 questions.
Oh my God. Please.
Of course, then this person was brought away, never to be seen again.
Can I say something about the painting? That's a very symbolic painting. Some flowers are very symbolic.
However, we go back to the symbolic, the painting, then we lose the track of what's happening here. But yes.
Sorry.
No, but you are right. Sunflower is definitely very symbolic. Sunflower, by the way, is the symbol also of Ukraine. So I kind of like spilled, no?
It is?
Tomato soup on the symbol. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. But let's follow this criticism that was moved by a member of the audience in this conference. The guy, of course, was never seen again. He was brought away and never seen again.
No, please. Oh my God.
That's history we're trying to reach them.
The people
That's
who,
our-
no, that's the university that is trying to push the usual
Wait, what was that?
poison. This is a
I'm still thinking about.
You're still thinking about the sunflower, Christy. We
Well,
are.
don't screw me up because I was saying the sunflowers.
Forget the sunflowers. This was a conference held in a university in America where somebody finally wanted to question the vaccines. And questioning is impossible in today's society. Question is impossible in today's society. Question is impossible in today's social media. And we have paid the consequences over and over again because we have 17 channels removed. 16 or 17, I lost count.
Everything that's happening is just terrible.
Lies, lies, and more lies by the usual, Democrats are encouraged, while instead the truth.
It's going to be a lot harder now after what happened to the $1 billion man.
The $1 billion man this
Now
week,
we're all
of
gonna
course.
suffer so much.
Well, of course, Alex is a dear friend, and what has happened is profoundly unjust because they have utilized something like the Sandy Hook terrible tragedy happened in Sandy Hook. The probable superficiality of Alex in treating this case, he should have maybe done it in a different way. I stand by what Paul Joseph Watson's view was at the time. But I wasn't involved really until 2015, full on with InfoWars. I wasn't really involved. I was doing my own thing. Then me and Alex came to an agreement. He came to Rome and we started working together. But the thing is that this 1 billion will probably never be paid because this is like monopoly money. Who the hell has 1 billion? We are not all David Rockefeller, or we are not all George Soros, or billions are playing around with billions. Even Donald J. Trump, I mean, his whole estimate, it doesn't mean that it's just a little bit over 2.5 billion, I think. It doesn't have, maybe a little bit more, but so 1 billion for Alex Jones seems really insane, and it's completely unjust, and it's a way of just silencing people, just like they did in Italy with me. So I felt very much to this week because of course, I'm at the moment still in a very delicate position. I am, of course, still in process to become an American citizen, but I pray that Alex survives with the InfoWars, which I'm sure he will, because he definitely is somebody who persists in his mission, just like I did.
You won't give up.
We both know each other, me and Alex, from this internet truth movement from back in the days, almost 20 years ago. When we started, though, to interact, we didn't really get along because he didn't yet believe in the Jesuit conspiracy, or he had some points we differed. At that time, the truth movement, each one was pushing their own. I instead was trying to push this new vision that everything is interconnected. The Sabbatean Frankists, the Jesuits, the labor Zionists, the Satanist, the various kind of sects that emanate from Freemasonry or from Satanism or from Theosophy, it's all interconnected. It's all one big demonic plan. And that's why I hope that you will share this video. You will continue to donate, so to make possible for us to come back, even to persist, because even persisting, guys, it's a costly affair. I mean, it means for us having to spend hours over time. We could be spending reprogramming new channels, readdressing people to these channels,
finishing the book.
it's not a lot of work, but you can support us with GoFundMe still. You can support us, of course, with cashapp if you're in the United States of Great Britain, or you can support us with Fundle, which works also very well. So Alex will be here to stay in his position and his capacity, I think. will stay here as an info war on the internet and with his info wars for years to come. I don't think they will ever be able to shut them up. So don't worry. He will. I mean, now they have made their point. 1 billion.
It's kind of
but it's just like Trump
making
making
like that.
Subpoenaing.
It's a show. It's just they even said it was symbolic. They said that it was. They said we want to take InfoWars down. I think that was in their closing argument.
The thing is, I personally think, and I think this will be important to discuss also with our audience today when we open the phone lines, though we still have some news that I would like to report on, is that the Democrats have exaggerated this time.
Oh, yeah.
And they have really showed it. They made it obvious. They made it obvious. That's why there is people who might not come out in the open as patriots, as supporters of me, InfoWars, Alec, whatever. But they are there, like, the manager of that supermarket went in a couple of weeks ago. You remember? They said, what happened? He said, we are a silent minority, but we are. There is a lot more people than you think that are not accepting this BS anymore. So I think that we are on the right path, but But they are trying. They're desperate. Why they're desperate? Because, of course, they know that they will lose the midterm elections. They will be a landslide victory. Nobody
wants him.
No, but nobody wants to pay so much money at the gas pump, so much money at supermarkets, so much money for energy or gas. Nobody. Only some insane individuals will. It's like, asking me to castrate myself for the Rockefellers. I will not do it. And I don't think anybody should give up their own, It's like the Europeans. They're making themselves poorer and poorer and poorer so that Zelensky can continue his war against Russia with no hope of winning, because there is no hope of winning whatsoever. We have seen, of course, also this week, a sabotage attempt to the Turk stream. I talked about it in leozagami.com in an article. Nobody reported. The attempted sabotage, because, of course, it was unsuccessful and the people responsible were arrested. And God knows what kind of information they are filtering now to the Russian authorities who arrested them. And we have immediately after, though, the proposal, of course, of Vladimir Putin for Turkey to become the gas hub of Europe, and Erdogan endorsing that proposal immediately after. What it means that the Turk stream passes, of course, called Turk stream passes for the Black Sea, goes into Turkey, brings the gas, and then Turkey can resell it to Europe. That is becoming increasingly desperate. Europe is increasingly desperate. And that's why Borrell, who is one of the chiefs of the unelected bureaucrats of this technocratic hellhole, which is Brussels, has now said, threatened Russia, saying we will also react, and then we have, unfortunately now, Nato starting these exercises this week. So we have a lot of war news also, unfortunately, today that we are reporting on in this Norwegian publication. They confirmed that 11 nuclear bombers, call them strategic bombers because sometimes they call strategic bombers, that are placed basically 20 miles, and I don't know exactly where it is because it's 60 miles, basically 60 or 70 miles south of Murmansk, which I've been in Russia, but also Norway, as you know, was a place I lived in for many years. And they have placed basically 11 nuclear bombers, and there is photos to prove it, done by the satellite. So this is basically what is happening. And at the same time, they made a fact check on the Newsweek about this information, and the fact check has confirmed that this is true. So it's not like this information from the Norwegian then was later reported, I think, by the Sun also. But Newsweek made the fact check, and Did the Russia suddenly move nuclear bombs to Norway? The answer is actually yes. And it was done because of these continuous threats. And also because at this point, you see, but Russia, northern territories and borders also being very closely watched. And the recent appearance of military effort in the area once again fuels, but also there is the confirmation that that Russia has increased the number of strategic bombers, meaning nuclear bombers, close to its border with NATO member state, Norway. Now, tension is increasing. There was also the Ukrainians who went and bombed a electric power plant in Russia, close to the border. So they entered Russia and they attacked Russia, which of course is like a declaration of war in a way. But at the moment, Ukraine is not NATO. The moment in which NATO becomes involved with Ukraine, formally, Ukraine becomes NATO, then a NATO member, at that point, is Third World War. And this was, of course, also said by the Russian authorities this week. But we have, like I said, this week, the West that is basically planning how to avoid panic regarding the nuclear possibility, the nuclear attack. So there is an article by The Guardian, which I invite you to go and check out. West makes plans to avoid panic if Russia uses nuclear bombs. So they are already, we have NATO that from Monday is running drills. And we know what happens when countries run drills, like Russia run drills on the borders with Ukraine and then invaded them. But in this case, crisis they say is considered unlikely, but officials re-examine plans to provide support for fearful populations, which means also maybe giving them also iodine pills or whatever is requested. So Western officials are engaged in prudent planning, they call it, behind the scenes to prevent chaos and panic in their home countries in the event Russia was to detonate a nuclear bomb in or near Ukraine. So there is public information campaigns and even school drills on how to survive nuclear war were a feature of the Cold War, if you all remember, guys, and they seem to be coming back. And at the time, the people, of course, were in the middle of strategy of nuclear tension in the Cold War that is now being rehashed. Kate Hudson, the General Secretary of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, said this prudent planning harks back to the British government's Cold War era Protect and Survive campaign. So they're going back to those government Cold War era projects. And it seems like the situation is getting more and more tense. Though Emmanuel Macron said that France will not use nukes even if Ukraine was affected. He said it. But he then also said wouldn't be directly affected at all if, for example, there was a ballistic nuclear attack in Ukraine in the region. So he said that France wouldn't be affected in the sense that France is a nuclear power. But they already said, when we say tactical nuclear weapon, people think of a little nuclear bomb, a little thing. Let's clear this matter. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were 20 kilotons nuclear bombs. A tactical nuclear weapon today is a 50 kiloton minimum nuclear bomb. So that's already almost 3 times, at least 2 times and a half, what was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So tactical nuclear weapons, but guys, we were going to see a blast that hasn't been seen since the time of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even more powerful than that. And we know what that meant for the world, the consequences in the years after that, all the Japanese that were born with this kind, 3 legs, 1 eye, all kinds of deformations. So the West is making plans, but we should not even be discussing this. Instead, NATO is setting aside to rebuild Ukraine's military, which basically is almost like saying NATO is embracing the idea of having Ukraine within their members, and it's rebuilding Ukraine's defense industry. It says it's about shifting away from Soviet equipment, one NATO official said. Well, shifting away from Soviet equipment, because we know that a lot of the military equipment used by the Ukrainian forces, especially when it comes to airplanes and stuff, was from the old Soviet era. But NATO is developing a 10-year plan to rebuild the Ukrainian defense industry, with the first meeting between the alliance and Kiev slated for next week. The meeting will be the start of a long process hinted at 4 weeks by. What is this? At 4? It's not 4. It's 4.
At 4. It's not.
Maybe,
right.
maybe. Guys, these people are political, don't even know how to write English. It's not because Leo Zagami, but it's because this leftists from political don't know how to write English.
4 F-O-R. 4 F-O-R.
Whatever.
Anyway.
Okay.
So
soon news, because of course I want to really go into this important part of the news, which was also our title. I wrote about this topic in volume 7 of my Confessions, and now suddenly there seems to be even other people who are interested in discussing it, like Paul Joseph Watson, and he discusses it in this article. Best places to survive in the USA in case of a nuclear apocalypse. Now, this article, of course, has been picked up by another publication, which I think I cited in my book, survivalfreedom.com, US nuclear target map, most safe and unsafe areas. So here you go on this map, and you can see exactly which are the safest and unsafest place. So you see, like, for example, between you have the areas that are red zone, least safe. And for example, Los Angeles and south, meaning San Diego, and then all here, it seems to be fine here in the area. But then when you get into San Bernardino, and here it starts to get red. So supposedly this is where we are now.
Where do we live?
Well, we live somewhere here on the red line. Now it's not that good. But then we have all kinds of areas here in the United States. I think that people need to check out this map. That's why I'm gonna put it in the chat here for people, so they can, of course, maybe have a look at it. No?
Ew, but Idaho doesn't look any better, sister.
You see, so somebody's asking for traduzione italiana. No, you can wait for the Italian show, which is coming up later on, for this same news, of course. Instead, let me show you the power drill, the nuclear power drills, whatever they're doing, starting from Monday, announced also by Reuters. This is what NATO is planning. This could turn from an exercise into a nuclear catastrophe. And it's starting Monday.
What?
So, it's like NATO said on Friday it will launch its annual nuclear exercise steadfast noon on Monday. And there is one thing about, really, I can't stand about my super enemy, because really, guys, from the volume 1 of my Confessions, and volume 2 in particular, you notice that I have an enemy, Jens Stoltenberg. He was my enemy even before he became Secretary General of NATO. He was my enemy, he became my enemy when he was Prime Minister of Norway. He got me arrested for espionage. And let's say he's my number one enemy. So trust me, he's never been in my good books. So I can't stand the fact that instead of respecting the rules of NATO, which means that every single country needs to be together on an issue before the Secretary General talks, he just talks. And it's been like this since he became Secretary General. He has totally disrespected the rules, the regulations of NATO, and he should be kicked out of NATO as a Secretary General. But instead, he's kept there because, like I expressed in volume 2 of my confessions, when he was still Prime Minister of Norway, he is a privileged guy connected to Freemasonry that is very powerful in Norway and whatnot, and the upper echelons of it, the so-called Knights of the Red Cross, the Illuminati Knights of the Swedish system, which is the Swedish Rite of Freemasonry, which dominates Scandinavia. But in any case, I was the one that really went against him, and for that reason, I had to flee Norway because I was accused of espionage and arrested.
All these countries you had to flee.
But I was always a great friend of America, a great friend of Russia, and I'm here trying to explain you Europe is a mess and it's torn between these things. But I mean, of course, I'm sad if something happens to Norway because my son is in Norway. But I'm sorry, guys, these people have been socialist, warmongers, and at the same time, devil worshippers, all of them. Sweden, Norway is full of devil worshippers and Satanists of the worst kind. So you can, if you want to learn more, read my books about this subject. Let's move further, but I thought it was very important that people check out what is happening, because Monday could be the start of something. Because Putin, how will Putin react to these NATO drills? How will Putin react to these NATO drills that are dedicated to the nuclear threat?
He's not going to react well.
So then we have another thing that has shocked many in Ukraine: the arrival of specialized Iranian troops. Now, why do the Iranians go to help Russia against Ukraine? Because the Iranians have sold their infamous, or depending on the points of view, famous drones, which are causing a lot of destruction in the last few days, especially in Ukraine. It was actually with the arrival of the elite Iranian troops and their drones that the war has turned even more bitter. Up to 50 Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps specialists have been deployed to train Moscow forces on how to operate kamikaze drones. These kamikaze drones are, and these are the elite forces of Iran that are involved with Vladimir Putin. The last few days, we have seen really more and more, also with the meeting in Astana, between Putin and Erdogan. There is a new world order, and it's a Sino-Russian new world order. The new world order is no longer dominated by America. And they are clearly saying, even Putin is saying, this is a new world order. And it's not an American-centric new order. And I still really laugh when I think about this discussion I had time ago, an interview with Sasha Stone and Sean Stone, the son of Oliver Stone, which was saying, no, the new world order is only an Anglo-Saxon, American, British thing. No, the new world order is like a car. Depends, the nature of who is driving it defines it. So now we see no Russian new world order. We have seen Russia and China more and more connected, but the problem here is once the China bubble bursts, once they will invade Taiwan, well, then in that case, how are the libertarians of California, which are basically owned by China, going to react to that? So
probably start crying.
I still, like I said in my recent interview with Maria Z, think that this alliance between Russia and China has some kind of expiry date, because sooner or later they're not going to.
Yeah, they're not compatible. Completely.
Yeah, because Russia has exited that communistic, atheistic mentality in the 90s, and I don't think it will ever go back to it. So let's see what's going to happen when the Messiah comes back. The whole thing will be turned around. When Jesus comes back, the Messiah for the Jews still has to arrive, but it will be incarnated by this figure, who, of course, will then challenge this new world order with a kingdom. It's not going to be any longer, like I explained in volume 7 of my confessions, at the arrival of Jesus, the systems need to change. They're not suitable. The present systems that are born from the French Revolution onwards, that have been inspired by Illuminism, by the Illuminati, and have destroyed the monarchies in favor of constitutional monarchies or republics, well, have only produced one positive thing, which was America, United States of America. But no other so-called democracy in the world is a democracy. It's all a scam. And we see it every day. In Italy now, from yesterday to today, suddenly Giorgia Meloni has argued with Berlusconi. And I said that before the elections. I said, Giorgia Meloni, it's going to last 10 days. And after 10 days, they're going to have a crisis. They're going to put the whole thing, they're going to dismantle the whole thing if she doesn't bow down to the whole. And Giorgia Meloni basically went on record the last 24 hours and said to Berlusconi, I'm not blackmailable. She said it after Berlusconi did a very stupid thing. He was in the Senate and he wrote down these notes saying Giorgia Meloni is an arrogant, ignorant, all these kind of things. No?
And then she saw the note.
The note was photographed from the back by a journalist. And at that point, once it became public, of course, they invited Giorgia Meloni for a reaction. And she said, well, I'm simply not. There should be another thing on that note list. I'm not corruptible. So now already there is some kind of argument going on. So as usual, and then let's remember, the democracy doesn't exist in Italy. It's a parliamentary republic, not a presidential one. So nobody's electing the president. The president decides everything. So it's like just pulling somebody from somewhere else.
A lot of people think it was a big deal that she became elected. That it was going to change it. I even saw it on her phone.
I think she might not be corruptible, but in the end, she will have to bow down to the Aspen Institute, which she is part of, and Friends Bill Gates. But also, Giorgia Meloni is the biggest warmonger and supporter of Zelensky, guys. So there's no way this thing can go on.
Know that.
People need to wake up. I don't understand these guys. Even my colleagues at InfoWars, I said how things are, and then they come up with an article saying exactly the opposite, say that Giorgia Meloni will, in some way, no? Well, I don't agree with posting things that are not in line with what is the truth here. The truth is, Giorgia Meloni is, if she becomes prime minister, going to have to bow down to a rigged system. And that's why they're already saying that maybe Giorgia Meloni might not even be the candidate for prime minister now. Italy is a dictatorship. It's just a dictatorship of the mafia, of the Jesuits, and these people, of course, and the Sabbatean Franks. So let's not forget that Italy in Rome has the oldest Jewish community in the world, and it's a bunch of Sabbatean Frankist Satanists, most of them. There was a big community of Sabbatean. The second community, Jewish community in Italy, is Livorno, which basically was the place where I think Jacob Frank went to find his wife. I mean, we're talking here about Satanism. So Italy, then we have England. We have this idiot from the Conservative Party who arrives there, and immediately she is incompetent. The markets are going down, and we don't know how she's going to end up. But basically, they are already saying that she's on the way out, and she's not even been, I mean, she was sworn in, what, a month ago, before the Queen died? I mean, we have good news, though. In Arizona, at least, we have a possibility that Carrie Lake becomes the governor. And she's a major MAGA superstar, you can say. But regarding the rest of the world, it's already bought and paid for by George Soros. And if you want to know about the future of the world, well, in a couple of days, it all takes place in China for this is a very important event, guys, and let's not forget it. A very, very important event that we should all be scrutinizing. Communist Party Congress will offer clues for China's future. The Communist Party Congress, guys, No, we still have to take phone calls.
Oh, are you going to do that?
Yes.
I thought that. Okay.
If somebody calls.
Okay.
But Communist Party Congress is about to start in a couple of days. And what is China going to do? Well, the plans that China, they are defined by the Wall Street Journal. That, by the way, with News Corp is now going to be realigned with Fox. That's what Murdoch says. But let me show you. These people are preparing for war. Because the Great Reset is about war, famine, destruction. And so Xi Jinping endgame, China prepare for conflict with the US. He has unleashed an array of military, economic, and political campaigns to brace the country for the possibility of confrontation. When are you going to wake up? The number one enemy is waking up. The dragon of the apocalypse is waking up. I will open the lines for 10 minutes. Because last week, Christy, we didn't get really many phone calls. And this week, I wanted to focus on the news. And then, of course, 10 minutes, we will give the possibility for the people who follow us to call in. So you are able to call in today, but you have 10 minutes. I know it's not an immense amount of time that we're giving you. But unfortunately, guys, the problem has been that people simply didn't call last week, and it created, kind of like the show wasn't flowing as well. Because we noticed that since the closing of our main channel, there is a lot less phone calls. That's how it is. So let me open up the phone lines. Let me give you the phone number. You can call. The line is open. You have, starting from now, 10 minutes to call in. You can make your questions, you can give your opinion on today's show, +1 970 577 6369. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Mark. I'm calling from Toronto, Canada.
Welcome from Canada. Am I right about Canada or not? It's like...
Yeah, you are right about Canada. Canada is awful.
At least I get the Canadians to say, so I don't get them criticized by Christy, who has Canadian friends who tell them not to say. Okay, no, I'm joking. But so, what do you think of today? What we have discussed, and what's your idea?
I've actually only heard the end, so I'm not sure. But I have a few questions for you, if I could ask real quick.
Please.
My first question is, have you read Jay Dyer's book on Hollywood? It's also quite good. Since you're already your own book on Hollywood.
Dyer's book.
Which one is that?
On Hollywood. Don't we have to...
Yeah. Okay. Jay Dyer's book is a great book on esoteric interpretation of films. And it's a very good... I read both of them, volume 1 and 2. And I actually have them here. And I actually did a brief citation, I think, from one of the couple of citations from that. But my book is completely different because here we're not talking about the esoteric interpretation of the films, which is a great job. And I think that Jay Dyer did a great job really in analyzing each film. And I would suggest people to get his books just so they can maybe, view movies in a different way. But I wanted to explain the names of the people behind this Sabbatian Frankist Hollywood, the people involved, the people who actually pulled, the strings behind the scenes in a more clear way. And it's a different kind of book because it's not. Just to finish, it's not only about the esoteric, because of course I'm also an esoteric specialist in the esoteric field and stuff. I didn't want to repeat what other people already did. I thought that what was missing here is the names of the people who are involved, the lodges, the sects who are that, and in detail, in much more detail, the dates of the actual foundation of Hollywood and how it was created by the occult groups who deliberately did certain things. So I think that definitely I will always say that Jay's work is to the level, because I also know there is a lot of other people who write the books that seemed to have, but at least he focused on what he knows. But here is about an insider who is going to describe you what the World Economic Forum is planning for Hollywood. Here's a here is a.
I look forward to your book.
So I mean, it's a but definitely thumbs up for Jay Dyer's book because it's very good book. Books, both volume 1 and 2.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Okay. So a while back on your show, you said there was going to be some sort of event or march or rally in Italy on October 22nd.
Okay.
That's
No,
happening.
it wasn't October 27. It's actually October 27, October 28. It's 100. It's a 100-year anniversary of the March on Rome. Unfortunately, the Italians have preferred to democratically elect this joke of a government rather than to march like they did 100 years ago to reclaim their sovereignty. I think.
So that's not going to happen. It's been canceled.
Unless there's a miracle.
Unless there's a miracle, the Italians simply don't want to risk, because for 2 years they scared the shit out of them. They basically, it was like everybody was preparing for this event, was actually intercepted by the police, arrested by the police, harassed by the police. And there was actually a lot of harassment that was conducted by the Italian government, because you see, the march was built on this idea. We cannot in any way recreate fascism, because fascism, just like communism, is coming from socialism and is evil, inherently evil. But what happened was the fascism was able to conduct Italy towards a more dignified and sovereign approach because there was the monarchy at that time. In 1946, the monarchy was erased by a referendum, which was tricked by the OSS, that later became the CIA, and the Democratic Party here in America, that didn't want a monarchy any longer in Italy. So things went into this direction. In 1948, they rewrote the Constitution, keeping the worst of the fascist Constitution and including other parts, claiming that that was the fruit of hundreds of thousands of freedom fighters, which instead was the fruit of an accord made with the mafia, the Vatican, the Jesuits, and the CIA, the OSS America, and the Freemasonry, of course, that became later in charge after the war in Italy. From one place called Piazza. So I hope I gave you the answers that you were searching, and thank you so much for calling. And we will, of course, give the possibility to another person, because we still have 5 minutes, to call in. The number is +1 970 577 6369, and you will definitely be able to talk with me and Christy about the subjects of today. And if you're willing to also do a question or two, we are willing to answer them, like we did with this listener viewer that called us now. +1 970 577 6369. You have now left 4 minutes. After that, of course, Rambo will come on board with us. He's sleeping at the moment, huh? And he will say bye-bye to all of us. Christy, how was the show today?
Disturbing.
You always say disturbing. Every time you read my articles and stuff, lately you've been profoundly disturbed. You know? Yeah. But I think that this book that you've been working on has been profoundly disturbing.
Yeah, the first chapter disturbed me, but then the second chapter disturbed me. And it's just subjects that really, it's disturbing. It's about people that are interacting on your own well-being, you know? And it can be done.
And it can be done through cinema, it can be done through music, frequencies, and all kinds of things. I mean, it's very important to see how the manipulation is done. So that's why I guess that other people have interpreted more the esoteric content of the movies. I'm interpreting how those movies affect you physically.
Well, like in Italy, I felt like it was on, like we were attacked there, and so I felt.
Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Leo, it's Bruce Kodish.
Oh, Bruce, welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. And what's your question today for us? What do you think of what we have discussed today?
Well, you covered a lot of territory. I'm interested in the Sabbatean Frankist side, as you know. I'm not Orthodox, but I'm a traditional God-believing Jew.
So let's go back to discuss Connie West.
Research on the Sabbatean Frankists, and first of all, to confirm everything you've written about and what you say about the Sabbatean Frankist as an element in the so-called New World Order is absolutely correct and historically verified.
Bruce, Connie West. What do you think of Connie West?
Well, first of all, the whole idea about, the ADL or whoever, all these people coming in and they want to cancel Kanye West for saying what you and I would consider overgeneralizations, to say the least, about all Jews. When anybody ever says the Jews or talks about the Jews or the Zionists, as if it's one sort of one unified glob of people, where's the story, the old joke, which is absolutely true about the Jews. You get two Jews together and you get 5 different opinions. So it's all ridiculous. He's ignorant. He doesn't know, and it's basically dangerous because even somebody, this was an issue on War Room with Ellen Schroyer, where people were calling up and sort of using that as a stepping out point to talk about the Jews and the Zionists. There's different groups of Zionists. They're not all the same. And
so there was
Frankists had a tremendous influence on the Jewish world, which has not been good. And one of the tactics that they use is to basically, like the ADL, which may have started from the beginning as one of these groups, that they're basically, they throw the epithet of anti-Semitism on everybody that they can stick it to. And what ends up happening, and this is pre-planned and it's a deliberate thing, I believe, is to create a backlash so that when anybody like you or I actually points out real Jew hatred or just lies about the Jewish people as a whole, then basically they can come back. Well, everybody's talking about anti-Semitism. It's all, so anti-Semitism doesn't exist anymore because you can't actually call genuine anti-Semitism out. That's why the ADL and all these other groups, Sacha Baron Cohen, they're basically Sabbatean Frankists, or they're influenced by the Sabbatean Frankists, and it's been extremely damaging. And even people like Owen Schroyer and Harrison Smith don't really know. I think Alex understands, is whenever he talks about Jews and Israel Zionism, he makes careful distinctions. So it's a disturbing sort of side issue, which is always important.
That's why
Bruce. If you've ever heard of Stanley Monteith? Who was and he's now dead. But he was
he's dead. I think.
I think he influenced Alex Jones.
Bruce.
He wrote an excellent book called The Brotherhood of Darkness, and what he talks about
Bruce,
different groups. Some people say the Jews, the Jesuits. There's contingents of all these groups working together to screw the rest of us.
Let me interrupt a second. Let me interrupt a second. Stanley Monteith was actually a friend of mine. He died a few years back. He interviewed me back in 2000, I think, in 7 or 8, when I came out with my confessions online. And I totally agree with what you said. I mean, a guy who definitely influenced people also like Alex, because he was there before many other people. Just like Jordan Maxwell today, by the way, there is, I think, a celebration in Kluber, I think, Culver City. If you want, after I send you the address, at the Masonic Temple. It starts at 3 p.m. today for the life of our friend Jordan Maxwell, a memorial that is being organized in the Masonic Temple there. And I mean, Jordan also was an extremely controversial guy. I will not always share all of his opinions regarding religions and such. But I mean, it's important to understand that there is a lot of confusion in the air, and you said it yourself. I mean, there is people who are like Alex or me, a bit more prepared and can kind of talk to the average listener about these things and explain them carefully. And then you have people that maybe take it a bit more superficial, and that superficiality, unfortunately, gives the enemy the possibility of starting these anti-Semitic rants. Isn't that the case, Bruce?
Yes, that's exactly the case. And, you know, one of the things I want to point out, and I'm sure you agree, is that I'm not interested in canceling anybody. If somebody's making some kind of statements that's wrong or inaccurate or illogical or overgeneralizing, whatever, the point of dealing with that kind of speech is more speech and trying to correct the situation and not canceling the person or censoring them.
Well, then we go back, of course, to the theme of this week, which was the $1 billion fine that Alex Jones received for simply doing what Americans have been allowed to say and do, which is freedom of expression. No, freedom. Maybe his idea are wrong, but at least we should be able to all listen to them and not be so scared. They seem to have, of course, affect maybe some families and stuff, but 1 billion, sorry, it's completely out of order. No, I mean, it's never a good thing when you are shutting up people with an amount of money that is just like monopoly money. Isn't that the case, Bruce?
Exactly. And Alex spent very, very little time in the beginning when the first news came out of this massacre in Connecticut. He entertained various theories and viewpoints that were out there about this being a false flag in some way and some suspicious stuff that I think he covered it for about, maybe at most a half an hour or so. And then he let it go. And a few years later, he said he did believe that it happened. So they've been just pulling this up again and again to try to stir up the families, and the people went along with this. And basically, it ends up that the parents of these murdered children are ending up dancing on their own children's grave by pursuing this and they've basically been brainwashed by the Democrat lawyers. So it's
really
sad.
It's
sickening.
sad. It's sickening and sad.
See what's happened to him, and it's all trumped up lies.
Thank you so much, Bruce, for calling in today and for these topics that we discussed with great interest. And I think that is important that a guy who, of course, is a practicing Jew, who just told you, there is some confusion at times, and it's important to clear up this matter, and that's why my books are being very honest about it all. And I dealt with the Sabbatian Frankenstein in my latest book in volume 7, but I also dealt with them again in volume 8 because they are at the basis of what Hollywood has become. And I've been discussing this also in the last few days, also with my friend Roseanne Barr, who I'm actually trying to ask a couple of questions, maybe insert last minute in the book. Let's see if that's going to be possible. She's been suffering from long COVID, unfortunately, so she had some health issues. But we're still, very much in contact with Roseanne, who is a splendid person, Roseanne Barr. So, guys, we arrived to the end of the show. Rambo is here.
Everyone.
Christy is here. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Christina. Maybe you should cut his nails a little bit. What do you think? He hates that.
Yeah. I have a grinder, but
You have a grinder.
we just need to go on more walks.
Okay. Okay, the sound of the Leo Zagami show, because then I have to get on with getting ready. We don't even have a pizza today.
We don't have a pizza!
We don't have a pizza.
I think I'm going to make a BLT.
Oh,
It doesn't smell like bacon anymore.
Ooh. Okay, a BLT.
Want two BLTs?
That's not very kosher.
I like baking.
Okay.
Reminds me of my grandma.
So, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this show. Please encourage us by subscribing to our new YouTube channel so you can keep on following us. And if you want to support us, you know how does the Biden say it? You know the story.
Oh no!
But it's Foundry, it's GoFundMe, and it's Cash App. Take care.
Everyone. Stay safe. Oh, my back hurts. I can't do it.
Get back! Bye!
Bye!
From Palm Springs, California, this was the Leo Zagami Show.